Hi, and welcome to another edition of the IBD Round Table discussion. My name is Frank Garufi Jr., and I'm your host, and I'm here with some great panelists once again. And this episode is episode number 12, and we're going to be all about World IBD Day and DDW 14. So to get us started off, Marisa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Marisa Troy. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I write the blog journalingibd.org, which was recently changed, so you probably know it as keeping things inside is bad for my health.wordpress.com. If you go to either of the sites, it'll redirect you. I'm also on Twitter, journalingibd, and my advocacy is mostly focused on people who are feeling alone with their illness, because that's how I felt for so many years. And I have ulcerative colitis and an ostomy.
Great, thank you. And I am so happy that I get to have this next superhero actually introduce himself. Ryan, go ahead.
Thanks, Frank. Ryan Stevens, Crohn'sGuy.com. I'm also very honored to be here. And I have Crohn's disease, and I'm a member of the No Colon Club. So all the cool kids are doing it.
And our resident bad girl, Sara Ringer.
Hello, my precious little muffins. I am Sara, as you guys know if you watch this show. Normally my name is down below me along with my website, but because life works this way for me all the time, it didn't work. So you can find me at inflamedanduntamed.com. There are hyphens in between the words. What I do is I blog and I do a lot of YouTube videos on IBD. I wanted to share my story with the world because I felt really alone, really isolated. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression and just so many things that really got me down. And I knew that if I spoke and people could see me and watch me and hear me talk, that they would relate to me. And I've been doing that for 3 years, and I love it a lot. And I think that's really all I have to say about myself. I drew you a picture.
Unicorns.
Can I just say that it's one of Sarah's videos that got me realizing that maybe there were people out there who understood me. So I very much appreciate your videos, Sarah.
There is a reason why I call her the queen of IBD videos, and it's because her videos are so absolutely perfect. They're humorous, they're educational, and they just basically make everybody feel like somebody out there also gets it. So thank you, Sara, for what you do.
You guys know that if you talk about me, I get embarrassed and shy. I see
yes.
I see
your hair turns red, too.
What?
Your hair turns red, too.
It totally does. I'm really embarrassed.
So one of our, Sarah Schwery, who is from the Crohn's Journey Foundation, is usually always with us every round table. Unfortunately, she can't make it tonight due to some things that she has to do with her family. But I'm sure she'll be back with us soon. So I also, before we get started tonight, I also want to dedicate this show to 3 individuals. Alexandra Davidson, Nicola Hack, and Stephen T. Unfortunately, the IBD community lost 3 great people this month. And it's with a heavy heart that I have to say that, unfortunately, they're no longer with us, and I hope that I just want to dedicate the show to them and to their families and let them know that we all are keeping them in our hearts and in our prayers, and we hope that soon we won't ever have to start a show like with mentioning something like that again. So. So tonight's topic is Digestive Disease Week 2014 along with World IBD Day. So we'll start with DDW, Digestive Disease Week. It's May 3rd through May 6th, and this year it was in Chicago. Sara, can you just tell the viewers, in case they don't know, what DDW is and what it's about?
I sure can. DDW stands for Digestive Disease Week. It is one of the, if not the biggest, the best meeting for professionals who come. So it's like doctors, most of them are gastroenterologists or researchers, pharmaceutical companies, students who are looking to become doctors. They all come and they learn about the latest and the greatest advancements in treating and taking care of digestive diseases. And so this is not something that patients go to. It's a thing for doctors and professionals. And we were really lucky to get to go there in our unique position as IBD advocates. So that's what it is. It's like a doctor convention where they go and they learn and they talk to each other. And it's really cool. It was huge. Really big. 15,000 people go, so it's a big deal.
Yeah, it was absolutely huge. There was actually like two parts to it. There was a conference area down below where they were doing nothing but talks, talking about the latest research, talking about the latest procedures, and doing a whole bunch of just letting everybody know about the latest research and stuff like that. Plus, upstairs, there was the whole expo, which was absolutely humongous, with vendors and pharmaceutical companies and different third-party companies that have something to offer, and it was amazing.
Yeah, we didn't even make it through the entire thing. It was so big.
It was absolutely huge.
If I was a doctor, I would want to be there. For sure.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Marisa?
I just said, yeah, it was exhausting walking through the whole thing. I was just adding.
Yeah.
Marisa and I just wanted to sit down.
So, Janssen Biotech, which is a subdivision of Johnson & Johnson and is the makers of Remicade, invited all four of us here, including Andrea and Megan from the Great Bowel Movement and Amber Tresca from About.com. To Chicago for DDW14, and to also be part of what's called the IBD Social Circle. Ryan, what was the purpose of Janssen bringing us all there together?
It's just to find out what we as bloggers and IBD advocates, what sort of interaction we have with the people out there, what sort of questions they might ask us, and what kind of things do we find most that they want to know about IBD. And then as well, we got to meet with several GI doctors on that panel and kind of get their perspective from things. And it was interesting to see how they approach social media and how they use it, and think it's a very valuable tool, which is great. I think we need more doctors, researchers, everyone else like that involved with social media.
What's up, Jim? Sure. I see you guys.
I noticed that I was really, really happy that we got to all come together like that, where it was basically a nice big open dialogue, where we were all able to sit around, talk about some of the things that are going on from a patient's perspective, which is why they brought us. Plus, I mean, there was four of the biggest, GI researchers in IBD right now. Dr. Rubin was there. Dr. Higgins from, I'm sorry, where, Sarah, where?
University of Michigan.
University of Michigan. Dr. Ali was there as well. And for the life of me, I'm sorry, I can't remember where he was from.
Oklahoma.
UCLA, IBD?
No, that was Dr. Spiegel was there from UCLA. Yes. But it was great to sit down and have an open dialogue with all of them and talk about what it is not only that we're feeling, but the rest of the patients are feeling. Plus, also get from the GIs what they're feeling and what it is that they're trying to do and how they're trying to help us. But But I'll get to a little bit more of that in the future, in a second. I'm sorry. This question is for all of you, but I'm going to start with you, Marisa. You know, pharmaceutical companies in the social sphere, pharmaceutical companies don't always have the best reputation. They're talked about as big pharma, and that they care more about money versus patient needs. Did you have any reservations of attending this when, you know, it was first brought to you guys?
I really didn't have any at all. I think part of it was because I had done a couple projects with Janssen, so I felt like I knew where their mindset was a little bit. I was part of a patient panel for Remicade, and it was me and 2 other health activists, and Bob Brooks from WeGo Health had designed a discussion, and then we did a little bit of a Q&A. I was also part of, you know, a Remicade video, so I had done a couple projects with them, and I knew that, or at least I felt that their intent was really to just get the patient's perspectives, get doctors' perspectives, and do whatever they could so that we could all work together to achieve what we all want, which is the best quality of life, hopefully a cure, but we want to help people, and I had no reservations for those reasons.
Good, good. Ryan, what about you?
Exactly what Marisa just said. You got that feeling that, you know, they were genuine in being open and saying, hey, we're here to learn from you and tell us about your experience, because they really wanted to listen and hear. That was, I thought was wonderful. So no, I didn't have any reservations. I've never done anything like this before, to be honest. So it was all new to me, but it was really excellent learning event. I think everyone learned a lot that evening from one another. So no, it was a great event.
Sarah, what about you?
Well, leave it to me. I did have a few reservations, but so I think very hard about what I do, because it's my reputation, and I don't want to be looked at as somebody that is now working for big pharmaceutical companies, and I'm no longer just this advocate that's there for you guys. So I really think about the projects that I do and what I'm putting my name on and how I represent myself, because I always feel like I'm representing you guys all the time. I'm always thinking about you guys when I do things. So it's not that I had reservations in a way where I thought this was going to go wrong, but you never know exactly what you're getting into. But because of that, it just made me want to go even more, because I wanted to have a voice there and be able to work with them all the more, just as a patient working with them. When I got there, I was so impressed with Janssen, the people who work for them, just everything that they did with us and for us. I could not have been happier with the way that things went and how they worked with us. But I did have a little bit of reservation. I've learned in the past, based off of other people that I've worked with that didn't go so well, I'm really careful about who I work with these days. But you know, it was just like that teeny tiny little bit of reservation, but yeah, nothing big.
I'm along the same lines as you. You know, being an advocate, I take that as a badge of honor. I don't look at I look at when I do something like this, I'm not going there as Frank Garufi Jr. I'm going there as I'm going there obviously as myself, but I'm also representing, you know, 5 million people from around the world, and I take that very, very seriously, and I want to make sure that I not only do a good job for representing my son, but also representing all the other IBD patients that are out there. And I don't want to necessarily put myself in a situation where I'm not able to advocate effectively because of something. So, you know, that was the very first thought that came to my mind. Is this a good thing to do? And when I thought about it some more and I looked at who would be attending and what it is that we would be doing, I thought this sounds like the perfect opportunity to have real open dialogue. And I really believe that that is essential in what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. We need open dialogue. We need to be able to talk between what I believe is the sort of like the four facets of healthcare and IBD. It's the patients, it's the medical professionals, it is the pharmaceutical companies, and it is the insurance, the healthcare insurance companies. And the more that we can have an open dialogue and the more we can talk about what it is that's going on, the further we can, better everyone that's out there. So, yeah, I also had a little bit of a reservation at first, but I also knew that Janssen had a very good reputation. I also knew that the doctors that would be there for this were some of the greatest minds that we have right now leading research in IBD. And I also felt extremely honored to be there with all of you guys, plus Amber, Megan, and Andrea. It was an honor just to be in your guys' company as well. So it was, I really thought it was a good thing.
I also feel like we can't pass up opportunities like this to have our voices heard, because it's such a unique experience and there's so many people out there, and we were those people at one point who can't really vocalize our needs or the things that are bothering us. So when opportunities come up like this, as long as we have a fairly decent understanding of what's going to be happening and the company behind it and all that, I think it's really crucial for awareness. I think it's crucial for just to show that we're all willing to work together to achieve the same thing.
I agree completely. Yes. So I'll start with you, Marisa. What are some of the things that you learned from our discussions in the IBD social circle, along with Janssen and the GIs?
I learned that I learned a lot of things, but one of the things that stuck out in my mind was that doctors are just as frustrated as we are sometimes. That we always say IBD is not a one-size-fits-all case. Every patient is different and manifests differently in everyone, and I think I've realized that doctors feel that also, and they don't always know the right thing. And I get the impression, I'm guilty of that, I'm sure, that they kind of get a little bit of the anger and the frustration that patients feel when things aren't going well. So that really stuck out in my mind. I did really feel like Ryan said that people from Janssen were very genuine and really paid attention and wanted to hear and listen to our stories and our insights, and so that made me feel really, really good. And again, like Frank said, I was very honored to be a part of it, and I think we all did learn a lot, and I think that further dialogue needs to continue, and we could just take what we learned this over the weekend and continue to do whatever we can to make things better for patients and caregivers.
Yeah. Ryan, what about you?
Well, first off, you knew that these were some very smart cookies that you were sitting with, not just you guys, but the GIs as well. And you get the sense that they're always looking to learn, which I really liked, because I don't like it when someone comes to me and says, I have the answer, and that's the answer. As we know, everyone, as Marisa said, everyone's case is so different. You can't come to one person and say, this is going to be the answer for you. And I had that feeling that, they look at everything, and they're extremely on top of the game, paying attention to everything that's out there, very knowledgeable, as you would expect someone to be, who's at the top to be there, doing those things. But what I liked was hearing that the idea that they don't have all the answers yet. They're working on it, and maybe we'll get there. I had just today, I was looking through my Facebook feed, and there was a thing from Cleveland Clinic about can red wine and dark chocolate, you know, make you live longer. And you know, a month ago, if you had Googled that, you would have found a million pages saying, "Hey, drink red wine; it's going to make you live longer." Well, now the story today is it's false. It's not true. You know, so as advocates, we have to. I'm not getting it out right, but
It's okay.
There's never, you know, until we have the cure, there's really no one answer to anything, you know, and the information is going to change, and that's what we want. Is we want people to be adaptable and to be able to change and say, okay, we were in this direction for a while, you know, dark chocolate isn't going to make you live longer, or you know, this isn't the best treatment for you for IBD, or whatever it might be, you know. It's like, and like I said, it's interesting to see that they're adaptable and they're on the fly and they're willing to learn those things. That was important for me to see.
Yeah. Sarah, what about you?
I just want to clarify for everybody watching, because I don't know if everybody really understands what we're talking about here, but we were all in a meeting, and it was two parts. So part of it was dealing with Janssen in the pharmaceutical side. I can't speak English today. And the other part of it was we were in there with some of the top GI doctors in this entire nation, and part of the meeting was getting to talk with them and have them educate us and have us sort of educate them on the patient side. My favorite things, the things that I took away from this meeting, one, I really appreciated that Janssen didn't just bring us there for their benefit only, but that we had that part of the meeting where we got to talk to those doctors, because that was one of my favorite parts, because I am so knowledge driven. I love to learn. You guys know I wanted to be a teacher. Like, if I could just read books and go to school forever, I would. I should have become a doctor. But I loved the fact that we were there with these great doctors, which helps us because they can, you know, we all talked about misconceptions out there in the IBD world and on the internet, and what is true and what is not true and what's going on today, which is really cool. These aren't just like any doctors. They're really well-known doctors. And this meeting was the latest stuff going on in digestive disease. So we learned a lot. We got to ask our questions, which is sometimes nice for me, because when I'm giving advice out to you guys, or I'm giving advice out on my blog, it's one thing if I say it, but if I can back it with, you know, valid information, it just makes me more credible as a person. And I really don't think that anybody should be giving out information when they don't know what they're talking about. That's just one of my, like, I just want to strangle people when I see them just doing the wrong thing. But so I really liked that part about it. I liked all the things that I learned. There's so many cool things going on in the IBD world. I really liked the test that Dr. Higgins was talking about, where you don't even have to go, like, have a colonoscopy anymore. It's like some sort of stool test or fecal test, but they can actually predict when you're gonna flare up before you even flare up, which is great because you can start treating it maybe before the actual flare-up happens and prevent it. Also, you know, you don't have to go through a colonoscopy, stuff like that. So that was really cool for us to learn about, because I don't think any of us had heard about it, and we don't use it here in the States. He was saying very much, but we should. I guess it's used more often elsewhere.
He said you could do it in Germany for $10. You know?
Right, right.
Like
he was saying how cheap it was.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to learn about the new medications that he was talking about, the anti-adhesion or fibrosis thing, where we may be able to, like, reverse scarring one day. Just so many cool things. So I liked that. I loved talking with Janssen and giving our opinions and telling them what we want to see and why we all hate pharmaceutical companies, because you know, I mean, you guys know we all joke about the Humira commercials and all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. They're really good people. I just loved everything. Love all around. Is this me? It doesn't even seem like
I
it's.
found it pretty hopeful too to see all the new things that were in the works and to see things that, like Sarah said, we never would have known if we hadn't been there. So it was hopeful to see, and you never know what's gonna happen in 2 years, 5 years, or anything like that.
I think you just said, Marisa, what was the biggest thing that I took away from it, and that was hope. Sometimes it's easy when you're a patient and when you're advocating and when you're surrounded by a lot of pain, a lot of problems, a lot of uneasiness, that there sometimes feels like there's a lack of hope. And coming to this and getting to sit down with everybody, talking with the doctors, talking with Janssen, and talking even just amongst all of us on Saturday night when we were done the meetings and we went back to the hotel and everything, the biggest thing that I took away from all this was hope, that there's nobody that's quote-unquote sitting down on a job, that the GIs are working tirelessly in order to try to better what it is that not only we go through, but trying to come up with the fix, the cure. That Janssen is working extremely hard to try to, make things better for us as well, and that they honestly do care. I think that's another thing that I took away too. I didn't know what to expect of Janssen. I didn't know whether or not, they were a great company, if they were an okay company, if they weren't a very good company. But it took less than, I say, a half an hour of being around them to really realize that these aren't just people who are at work to make a paycheck and to do what it is that they were hired to do. They care. They honestly do care. And you can tell that they care more. They also have friends and family who are dealing with this. And they seem to be mission driven to help patients, not to make a bigger and better product than another company, not to, for any other reason than just honestly wanting to help. And I really took away a great feeling about that. I took away a great feeling of believing that there is the possibility one day that we will advance this to the point that we might see a cure. I'm always pretty hopeful to begin with, but I just really felt reassured that everybody's working hard around the clock to try to make that happen. Ryan, one of the things that you talked about there, in fact, I think I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you asked Dr. Higgins, is it possible one day that we could even regrow a colon? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, that was me, and I'm hoping. No, I try to read and learn myself. Again, as I said in the meeting, I'm just an English major. What do I really know? But I always feel out of my league, especially with you guys, because you guys are excellent. But
Oh, shut up. How are you?
You wouldn't be here if you didn't deserve it. Go ahead.
So, well, thank you, Frank, but I feel like I'm still learning to find my advocacy voice. I'm getting there. But I've heard about, you can 3D print an organ, and they can 3D print tissue. Right now, there's a company in California, I believe, where you can, it's human tissue, and I'm not going to get into the other side of it because I know we could debate that forever. But if you had the decision of injecting a mouse with a drug versus an actual human tissue, I would go with the human tissue because you know how it's going to react somewhat. I mean, I know it's not a real human that we're doing it on, but anyway, I was surprised at his answer to me, which was, yeah, someday we're going to do that. It's not right now. It's not 10 years from now. But and I'm in this game because yes, there's no cure for it. But I also have a 13-year-old son, and again, being an English major, if I understand the science correctly, he has a 25% chance of having IBD. And I don't want him to go through that. I don't want your son, Frank, to have to continue going through, what he experiences. So he's 13 now, but maybe my Crohn's didn't express itself, wake up until I was 36, So he still got, let's say it happens the same way. Let's say it never happens, Again, I don't want to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative, but...
You are.
When you asked the question, Ryan, though, it seemed like you got the answer without a lot of hesitation. Like he wasn't sure when it would happen, but he was pretty positive that eventually it would. So
there was a lot of confidence in his voice when he answered that, and
I think he said that today we technically could grow back a colon right now, but of course it wouldn't be perfect, and you wouldn't want to,
Right, he said you would...
You wouldn't want to put that in somebody's body, probably today.
Well, then he did say that, you would have to have a surgeon who could do, the 40 hours. You'd have to also hook up the blood vessels and all this other stuff again. And he said basically you would need a surgeon that could work for 40 hours on, trying to do this surgery. But again, back to your first point about, people viewing pharmaceutical companies as evil or just money, wanting to make money. They, like you said, they serve a role. They're especially with what I saw with Janssen in particular. I mean, that's the only one I can really comment on because that's the only one that we saw anything of. But like you said, they're really working hard at helping us, helping the people with an IBD.
And, I'm sorry, we're going to continue.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Marisa.
And the reality is that everyone wants to make money. Every company, wants to make money. That's the type of society we're in. But as long as, the core of, I don't know, the mission, the core, whatever of the company is good-hearted and they're well-intentioned, I mean, you can't fault somebody for wanting to make money, but they need to do it the right way. And as far as I'm concerned, so far Janssen has been doing this the right way.
Can I say two things?
Let's just also keep in mind for a second that when we say make money, we U-turn, miss. We U-turn. when we talk about making money, remember it takes a tremendous amount of money, and I mean a tremendous amount of money for research and development. These things aren't just things that are put together overnight and immediately they've got things working and it's ready for human consumption. It takes a lot of man hours, a lot of time, and a lot of research in order to be able to put these things together. So that all has to come from somewhere. I don't fault anyone for trying to make a living wage. And a company needs to make money in order to be able to produce a product. So the difference, in my opinion, when it comes right down to it, is that there is good corporate dollars and then there is evil corporate dollars. And it's all about how you go about making that. And I was impressed with the people that I met from Janssen. I was impressed on how they conducted themselves, what it is that they wanted, and how it is that they were going about doing that. They one of the reasons why I love Google is because they have their corporate motto is do no evil. And that is the type of large company that wants to better society and do it in such a way that they're not trampling or hurting people in the process of trying to do that. I got that same feeling from Janssen. So, you know, that's just my feeling on the whole money end of the business. But Sarah, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, first of all, that we see all your questions over there, and we are going to answer them at some point. So keep the conversation going, because we're not ignoring you. And thank you for the questions, and thank you for the comment on my hair. It did make me blush. And I also just wanted to say really quickly, because I know we're talking forever about this meeting, that there is a lot, like, usually I'm pretty negative. I think we all know that. Like, not negative, but, like, really super realistic. But there is a lot of hope for the future. Not, like, I still don't necessarily think that we're going to see a cure in my lifetime, but I do think that in 10 years, 20 years out, we are going to see huge progress, just as we have seen in the past 10 years. I mean, Dr. Rubin was telling us that when he used to practice, he would talk to rooms full of people with moon face, because that's all we had as far as treatment. And steroids are like the worst medication that we have to treat this. Sometimes necessary, but they're not good for you. And nowadays he's treating people that he's never had to put on steroids before. There's people that aren't going to have to go through the surgeries that we've gone through that have changed our entire lives, and they're gruesome and hard to get through. And there's going to be people who don't have to face those things. There's going to be better treatments, safer treatments. So I think, even me, miss negativity, that there is a lot of good things to look forward to.
One of the reasons why we're seeing pediatric cases on the rise for IBD is because we are getting better, and when I say we, I mean the medical profession is getting better at being able to diagnose IBD today than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And I just believe that we are making advancements, and we're making them in such a way that one day I believe that we can get there, and we will get there. God, I hope it is within our lifetime, my son's lifetime. But, you know, there is hope. There's reason. I've seen why we should all have hope. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've heard the best of the best telling me that we are getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And that's enough for me to feel very hopeful. And I hope that I'm conveying that to our audience well, that while there are days that we still have bad days, we still have days where it is too hard to get out of bed that day, where we still can't work, we still can't do the things that many other people do. But don't give up that hope. There is people working on this, and we will make better and better and better advancements.
So what you were saying was that IBD can stop you from doing things?
I'm going to leave that right there. Let me. All right. So, I think we did a decent job of covering what it was like meeting with Janssen and the fellow GIs, and the meeting that we had on Saturday night. But just to talk a little bit about Sunday morning when we got to walk the expo and see it. I wanted to get what your impressions were of the expo itself, because one of the things that I took away from it was, of course, I'm the geek here. I'm the guy who loves technology and is all about technology. But one of the things that I noticed was the amount of vendors that were there that were about imaging, about different ways of being able to see inside the body. And that was another reason why I had hope, because right now, and especially 20 years ago or more, doing a colonoscopy and endoscopy was just ridiculously painful for the patient. And it's still not something that's very easy for the patient to go through today. But one of the things that I saw was just the advancements in technology that they're making in order to be able to make it easier for them to be able to see what's going on the inside of the body. And I really believe that we're going to get to a place one day where doing an endoscopy and colonoscopy is going to be as easy. I know we have the pill cams now, but I mean, even better than the pill cams that we have now, it will be about just swallowing something real fast and being able to see everything that's going on perfectly without the need of having to go through the extensive periods of cleaning yourself out plus being put to sleep in order to have these big long things, put through you. Sarah, what were your thoughts on the expo itself?
Well, yes, Frank. On the morning after the Night of the Living Dead, I really, oh man. So first of all, I was exhausted, and walking through that place was really difficult for me. But I was so pumped up to be there, and like we just had that day that I wanted to get to all the places that I wanted to see. I don't even know where to start because I felt like it was such a whirlwind of a day. I was amazed at just how big this place was, how much I was thinking from, like, if I were a doctor, like a GI or even a student going into that profession, how overwhelmed I would have been being there. I wouldn't have even known like where to go or what class to take or what I wanted to learn or anything like that because there's just so much there. But I don't know. I don't know what my biggest takeaway from that day was. It was just such a weird day for me, walking around and people knew who I was, which was weird to me. And just for us to get to meet people and talk with people and network and do stuff like that, that was really cool. And I know you were really big. Frank was like taking pictures of different kinds of scoping methods and stuff. He was just being such a technology geek. But I was
Seriously,
a little bit.
I geeked out the whole time.
Yeah, to be honest, I felt really overwhelmed that day and pretty rushed that I can't even put a sentence together about it. It was a good day, but I don't know.
Me, Marisa, and Sarah were walking Expo together, but Ryan, we got separated from you. Did you get to go play with the giant colon that was there that I heard about?
Unfortunately, I did not because it was just incredibly how huge that floor was and how many vendors. I forget, there were, was it 200 plus or 400 plus vendors, I think, in that area. I was kind of nervous actually because all those people, there's like 10,000 GIs, and I'm thinking, they want to see my insides, and that kind of made me nervous. But then, and then you turn a corner and there's like 100 endoscopes, on, like whips, hanging, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to see that either, but it was freaky. I wanted to go take a picture.
You know what the funny part about it? It was absolutely freaky, but that shows you the kind of person I am because I'm running up to those things. Marissa's like, get away from there, and I'm like, come on, let me see it in action.
I wanted to go stand behind him and like drape my arms over, and then I was gonna be the endoscope monster, take a picture, like, because that would scare the shit out of anybody. I mean, really.
Yeah, it was weird. They were all just like hanging there, and they were all different sizes and everything. I was just like, oh, cool. But I did, of course, me being me, I met up with a doctor that I know through social media, Dr. Ryan Madanek, and I finally got to meet him in person. And of course, one of my questions was, why is it that the doctors leave the camera on, like facing towards your butt before you fall asleep? So all you're doing is staring at like a giant your own butt on the screen until like you pass out.
I'm sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I did not, and if I'm invited back or wherever it's going to be the next time, I would love to go back. And that was one thing I did not do correctly, was really explore that entire section. I drove in, so I did have to get back on the road. But yeah, that was probably just a mind of huge information that I wish I would have spent more time.
I agree too. I think if we had a little bit more time to do some better planning, we could have probably tackled a lot more. So I do want to go again. I hope we all get to go again and we can plan it out and actually get to experience more of it in the future.
There's a reason why that convention is 4 days long. It's because we were all rushing to catch flights, and you were driving Ryan and stuff like that, and we didn't get nearly the amount of time. But trust me, if I was given the time, I would have hit every single booth in that place, and I probably would have tried to sit in on as many talks as I could, because
I think rushing around kind of, at least for me, took away from it, because you couldn't really internalize everything, and you couldn't find the booths that were appropriate for you, because you're just under such a huge time constraint. So I think that was, and like everybody said, it was a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of information. So I think, like Sarah said, if we were able to plan it out, it would have been easier.
I was amazed, although I guess I shouldn't be, but when I went outside to catch the shuttle back to the hotel, just about every European doctor's out there smoking. I couldn't believe that, but I guess I shouldn't. It was strange, You walk out and there's like this huge cloud of smoke, and I'm like, oh my God. But it was really interesting too, because I heard just about every language in the world, I think, that day.
Yeah.
And just showing us that this is a global disease, and the rest of the world is trying to learn just as much as they can as well.
Yeah, so. They actually had every continent was represented there except for Antarctica. So people from all over the world came, over 15,000. So imagine how big that is. It was huge.
Which is another hopeful thing, because all those people have different experiences, a different mindset. So if they're working on certain things and thinking about certain things while we're trying to develop things in other areas, then it's more positive.
That's an excellent point, Marisa. Excellent point, because it's the crowdsourcing kind of idea. The more minds you have working on it that don't always see the same thing the same way, they're doing that kind of now here in the States with universities, where they'll pair professors in their labs or wherever, their offices, but they'll pair them with someone in a totally different field besides what that person's involved in. And that it's sort of like a synergy of ideas where, like Marisa said, you have somebody thinking at a different way of looking at it, and they come together with someone else who's been looking at it differently, and then hopefully there's more, a greater production when that happens. So.
Yeah. One of the questions from the audience, Vegan asked me, were there any software developers showing off software apps to help record IBD symptoms, medications, etc.? I'm going to answer that kind of in two parts. One, you're probably not going to like this answer. There's a little bit of an NDA behind some of the things that I saw that, and that's a non-disclosure agreement. But should I say, what I believe I can say is that there are things in the works, new things that are coming out as far as using technology, software, and apps in order to be able to assist patients in better getting information back to doctors in a timely fashion, and being able to work with that data to help improve some of the things that you're going through. One of the things that I saw right after I got back from DDW was an actual video that came from, I believe it was the Mayo Clinic. I shared it on my Google Plus page and also on my Facebook page, and I'll refer back to it later and try to get it in the recap for you guys, where for pediatric IBD patients, they actually have an app that is in closed testing right now. It's not something that I believe that it's widespread for everyone to use, but where it's giving real-time information back to the doctors, so they're able to see that information immediately rather than at your next doctor visit or weeks later but in real time. So that way, as you're recording symptoms and problems and issues that you're having, it is going right back to doctor right away, which is great. That's something I have thought for a while that we absolutely needed, and that I'm kind of hopeful for that we'll see sooner rather than later. I want to take another question real quick. I want to thank both Victoria and Barry for their kind words in the comments. Victoria said, thank you to all the IBD advocates that went to DDW on our behalf. I can say for myself, it was a complete honor to be there. Like I said, I don't take lightly what I do on behalf of the IBD community. I take it extremely seriously. I work very hard at it, and it's an honor to be there and to represent you guys as well. And hopefully I do that in a manner in which you guys can be proud of.
And Victoria, I want to thank you also. The Get Your Belly Out campaign was, I thought it was one of the best IBD awareness campaigns I've ever seen, and it was also the first time that I had the courage to take a picture of my stomach with scars and ostomy and all. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do also.
Yeah.
All around.
Seriously, and in fact, I was going to get a little bit more into what Victoria and the team at Get Your Belly Out in just a little bit when we start covering World IBD Day in a minute. Barry, I wish I could say your last name, but I know I would do nothing but butcher it. So I'm just going to say Barry S. Go. What is it? Can you say it? All right, I'm glad you attempted it because I wasn't even going to come close to it. So important the work you guys do, and there needs to be a link with big companies to know what's going on. You guys are the best people to represent the community. Yeah, go. I'll let you guys answer that. I'll just say on my behalf, like I said before, it's an honor to work on behalf of the other IBD patients that are out there, and open dialogue and communication is absolutely essential and needed.
I completely agree. I think that it's so essential for people like us and other advocates to get together with other companies, and I think the CCFA and the CCFC need to play a huge part in that, because they have more resources, they have the money, they have people working for them. So I think that we all can do what we do, and we do a really great job. But Frank always says to me a little bit that he thinks sometimes we're preaching to the choir and we're not really able to get things accomplished because the public still has minimal understanding. So I think it is very important that we partner with the CCFA and other organizations that really have some pull, so that we can get our message out and hopefully get things accomplished.
Just to go off on a little bit of a side rant real quick, I look at what the four of us here do on a daily basis. I look at the time that we put into our advocacies, the resources that we put into them, blogs, videos, going to events like this, taking time to go into support groups and talk to patients and to help them as much as we can. And we do all of this with almost $0. I mean, seriously, none of us here are getting paid to do any of this. We do it because we have a passion and a fire in our hearts to make the world a better place and to help those people that are living with this disease. Can you imagine what it is that all of us could do if we had some backing behind us, if we had the resources of a CCFA behind us or something similar?
Yeah, Frank and I were talking, actually, I think it was yesterday, but what a lot of people don't realize is the time that goes into doing what we do, and we're doing it out of just passion and love for helping our community, but it is at least a 40-hour commitment a week, if not more.
Easily, yeah.
A lot of us are working on top of that. Currently, I'm not because of my hospitalization, my long one in the beginning of this year. But even when I am working, it's very, very time-consuming. But it's something that we love, and we care so much about this and about you guys and about changing the world for all of us. So I know somebody asked, it was a question over there about how to become an advocate. One of the things that you have to have is the time and the dedication to do this, because it's a job and it doesn't pay you. Marisa and I got an email about a week or so ago about how to make this into a living, and wondering how we get paid, or if we get paid, and if we make a living off of it. And
Hell no.
No.
Hell no.
But no.
I think I get a little bit of money off of my YouTube videos, and I'm talking like $30 a month. So.
If I could add to something, Sarah, another important thing is, if you want to be an advocate, is to be an educated one, because we talk so much about misinformation and all that, and if you're just talking about your own story and really having no idea what it is that you're saying, that's not good for anyone. So it's important to know your stuff.
I think all four of us never started this going into it thinking we're going to end up these big IBD advocates, and it's never about fame or being known or anything like that, because that's silly. I mean, it's the IBD community, so there's no fame. But
want to do good.
I never went into it to be an advocate. It just happened that way. I started because I wanted to tell my story, and because I was lonely and depressed and scared and anxious, and I just needed an outlet, and I had been in the hospital and I had nothing to do, and I just started recording videos and writing, and it turned into something, and it's luck. And I got lucky that it blew up the way it did. But you have to, if you want to share your story, if you want to start a blog or do whatever you want to do, that's one thing. Sharing your story is totally fine, but giving out advice and starting to write things that are more technical, you really have to be educated, because there's so much wrong information about there. And one thing that I do, and that we all do, is we check our information, and we have doctors that we can talk to. I'm always like messaging doctors that are very nice to help me out when I have a question, when I don't know the answer. And I always tell everybody, double check what I say, even, because we're not always going to get it right. So don't go into it wanting to be this big advocate. Go into it because you want to share your story and you want to talk to other people. And there's ways to get support and have community without being this person. There's so many Facebook groups and support groups where you can meet people and not be alone.
Yeah, I would add, everyone's voice is important. And if you don't want to go the route of starting your own blog or anything like that, you can. There are great organizations like the Great Bowel Movement. They're looking to hear from people and from patients. They want to start a dialogue with you and to hear your story. So that's one way that you could raise awareness. That's what we're all trying to do. Is as Marisa said, there's a lot of people in John Q. Public who don't understand what IBD is, and it's a disservice to us. And rather than sit around and bitch about it, we have to get the word out there and educate. And sometimes it's difficult because people don't want to hear the education. And it's also the double-edged sword of it's an invisible disease, as we all know. Because how many of us have been told, well, you don't look sick? So it's, again, everyone's voice should be heard, in my opinion.
I am also I also tell people that it is great to start a blog, to talk about your story, to help the world understand what it is that people with IBD go through. There's a little bit of a caveat to that. be a sponge. And when I mean be a sponge, I mean soak up every ounce of information that you can about IBD, and be willing to talk to anyone and everyone who has a good, strong understanding of IBD, so that way you can make sure that when you're advocating that you're spreading correct information. And when I tell you that for every piece of bad information, Sara, Ryan, Marisa, myself, along with all the other advocates, have to work triple time in order to combat that one piece of bad information. And
we hate
it sets us back so far.
We hate to sound, it's horrible because we don't want to sound like know-it-alls, or like we're not the IBD police, and we're not like, woo, 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 I'm arresting you because you wrote irritable bowel disease instead of inflammatory bowel disease. Like, I hate to have to say something because I'll see a blog and I'll be like, oh God, they wrote that, and oh, do I say something or don't I? Because I don't want to sound like a know-it-all or like a mean person, but then I'm like, I really want to say something. So it's a struggle. I mean, I don't know. I love this community so much, and I love all of you guys so much. So I never want to be like, well, hey, you got that wrong right there, person. But at the same time, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
I think for some people, it takes a certain level of acceptance in order to be able to do the research and kind of comprehend all of it. I mean, I know the first, 12 years, I guess, of having ulcerative colitis and going through what I have, I definitely researched things, and I was knowledgeable, and I was a very educated patient, but I didn't want to be up to date on all the latest things, and I didn't want to be talking about it constantly because I was dealing with so much physically. So I think that it's great if you want to be an advocate. I think blogging is great. I also think that journaling is great, and maybe at some point you'll end up publicizing, what you write in your journal. So there's all different ways of doing this, and there's all different ways of coping and, helping to spread the word. And if you're not ready and it's now, then, who knows when it will be.
I think we're also forgetting the importance of local in-person support groups as well. And being an advocate doesn't mean that you are just an online blogger or a video logger, or that you have to have your own website and start these things up. There are plenty of in-person support groups too that need people who will go there and support others, and to help run local in-person support groups. So that's another way that you can get involved and be an advocate and help other people with IBD without necessarily needing to do it on a online at all. I want to give a huge shout out too, by the way, real fast, to Mike Porter. Mike is in the hospital right now, had a scope done today, and his health hasn't been the best right now, and he just messaged us saying that he's been watching from the hospital bed, and hoping, Mike, that you're out of there real quick and that things are looking better.
We're thinking of you.
Yep.
We are. We all love you, Mike, and
yeah.
We're glad that you're watching today. And this unicorn right here is for you.
And hopefully you'll be back with us in the next chat.
Mike, I'm just saying, she never gave me a unicorn before, so I mean, you're.
Me neither, and we're sisters.
It has to be pretty serious. I'm giving you a unicorn.
One more quick question before we move on to World IBD Day. Victoria asks, is there anything we can do to help the GIs at DDW to move forward in their research to advance things forward? More awareness, be more open, voice our concerns. What do you guys think? I mean, what is it? I believe that we also have a responsibility from the patient side to be open and to do whatever we can to assist the medical professionals, pharmaceuticals, insurance companies, etc. What do you guys think about that?
I actually got a.
We're all gonna answer.
Yeah, no, let me start with Ryan real quick, and then I'll move on to Sara and Marisa.
I was just gonna say I'm selling my body to science, so.
You're just serious for the money, aren't you?
Yeah. No,
I sell my
meeting
body every day.
That was great to announce. Go ahead.
meeting Dr. Higgins, from University of Michigan, and I'm just 45 minutes south of there, and they have opportunities to do studies, and I'm in the database now, and I'm going to go do whatever. If a study, if I can fit into it and they'll take me, I'm going to go do that. And yeah, they might pay me $20, for whatever, but I hope that they get some information from me and that it'll help. I don't know if it will, but that's something I'm considering right now, and seriously selling my body to science, So.
That is huge right there. And I'm not talking about selling your body to science, but what is huge, and what I absolutely would advocate other IBD patients to do, is when there are research studies, get involved. A lot of times the research studies, all they want is just a vial of your blood, so that way they can run DNA tests, they can run genetic tests and stuff like that. A lot of times they want it not only from the patient, but from family members too, mom and dad as well, regardless of how old you are, in order to try to figure out what is going on. I know myself and Dominic are in about 6 of them right now, and there's small little things that you can do that can make a huge difference to the researchers in finding out new things. So it seems like something small, and it doesn't mean that much, but man, when you put enough of those people get into those research studies, and they can find a link somewhere, that is humongous.
I actually got a message from Dr. Higgins today saying, something like no brave, patients equals no new meds for us all, which is true. I mean, in my mind, if somebody was to mention an experimental drug or treatment option, I would be very, very skeptical, and I don't know if I would even have the courage to do it, because, who knows what could happen. But, it's true. If we didn't have people who are willing to, not sell their body to science, but to really put themselves out there and do what kind of needs to be done for themselves and future patients, I think it's really wonderful.
I mean, I look at it as I'm 40 plus years old, and I feel like I most likely going to have a shortened lifespan because of IBD. Again, not trying to be negative, but if there's some study out there that I could contribute to and it sounds risky, I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. But most of the stuff, they exclude me because I don't have a colon, but there'll be something.
Discrimination against no colons.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to World IBD Day. The guys, keep the questions coming, because even if they're not specifically about World IBD Day, when we're done World IBD covering the topic, I'm going to get at the end to every single question that's there. So if you've got something, bring it, put it in there. We'll get to it all at the end. I swear we're not going to wrap up until all the questions are done. So grab a sleeping bag.
Said that they're going to ask us like 100 questions, and we're going to be here until tomorrow.
Seriously, I'm thinking about doing an AMA, Ask Me Anything, where we'll just sit here for 2-3 hours and just let everybody keep asking questions.
Honestly, we could totally fill up 2 hours with that. That one time that you interviewed me alone, most of the time we were just answering questions.
Yep, and I love it too. I do. All right, so let's move on to World IBD Day. Marisa, what is World IBD Day?
World IBD Day is pretty much just a global celebration, or I don't know if celebration is the right word, create awareness for inflammatory bowel disease, which is Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. A lot of people, they'll share their stories for the first time. I mean, I think World IBD Day means different things to different people depending on where you are. For some, it could mean, talking to a close family or friend about what you're dealing with, or a little bit about your disease for the first time. For others, it could be, blasting pictures and things all over social media and writing about it. I think it's really just a way to try and raise awareness for these debilitating diseases that are very, very misunderstood. And it also gives the community a chance to come together and, talk about certain things and share photos and, change their profile picture or cover photo on Facebook, which shows unity and makes people who may be feeling isolated, like they are actually part of something. So I think all in all, World IBD Day is just one big trying to raise awareness depending on the stage you're at in your illness.
Yep. Sara, is there a difference between World IBD Day, which is that just passed on May 19th, and the IBD Awareness Week that's held December 1st through the 8th?
One is in May, and the other is in December.
You've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there is. World IBD Day it involves the entire world, obviously. It's in the name. So it's everyone, everywhere, everybody affected by inflammatory bowel disease. It's more run by patient support groups than it's run by like bigger things, though now you're seeing that involvement. But it's like a patient organization supported mission all around the world to raise awareness about inflammatory bowel disease. The IBD week that we have in December, that is only recognized here in the States. The Senate passed a resolution back in 2011. So we've only had it for 3 years now. And it was made to support caregivers, people who care for patients with inflammatory bowel disease, as well as researchers and the patients themselves. But again, it's only here in America, I believe, and it's in December. So it's obviously different than World IBD Day, which is in May.
See, and that's why I surround myself with you smart, smart people.
I am a genius.
So I'll start with you, Ryan. Tell for a second, anything that you did for World IBD Day on the 19th.
I didn't do a whole terrible lot on that day. I did post not a question, more of like a plea, asking people. I said, hey, most likely you have a child in your life, whether it's your own child, your an aunt, an uncle, your grandparent, something like that. And could you please, please, please try and interest that child in science? And that's my plea, and that's because we, take Honey Boo Boo, for example. We have one Honey Boo Boo already. I'm sure she's a lovely little girl, but we don't need a second one. We need researchers. We need kids who will say, hey, I wonder why someone's immune system attacks itself, and tries to answer that question. So that was my angle, just trying to get people aware that, your child could be the one who cures something like IBD. If
Or
it's
your
not
child
already.
could be Honey Boo Boo.
Your child. Right.
I absolutely love that, Ryan. I love the fact that you did that. I think it was, for one, it was very unique and different. And you're absolutely right. If we don't encourage our children to get involved in both math and science, who is going to do the research and find these cures? Who is it that's going to help us?
It's not the English major. I'll tell you that. It's not. But I was surprised at the response that I did get from several people who have actually thought about this and said, yeah, I'm trying to interest my, the kids that I have influence on, I'm trying to interest them in science. I really am, which I was really happy to see. That, I believe that if we have the right focus on something, then only good can come of it. So. Yeah.
Marisa, what about you? What did you do?
I turned to Twitter for my awareness. I thought about writing another blog post, but I just kind of didn't want to do another generic, how we need to raise awareness every day type of thing. So I actually tweeted every 20 minutes a fact about Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, or a feeling, a picture, a resource, or a particular blog or something like that every 20 minutes. And I use the hashtag World IBD along with, other hashtags. But that was a way for me to also connect with other IBDers in the Twitter world who I didn't know yet. And it was really it was kind of empowering for me because I was able to sort of just say whatever I wanted about my disease, obviously having it be factual, and talk about the reality of what patients go through. And, if you do it every 20 minutes, assuming people don't unfollow you, you get in the brains of a lot of the people who are following you. So that was what I did for World IBD Day.
I loved, I loved all of your tweets from World IBD Day, but the ones what you did something a little different than most of the other things that I saw out there on World IBD Day. So much of it was a personal connection to you, and it really from a different standpoint. I mean, I think most people know that we're dating and that, we've been together for a while now. But even if I wasn't dating you and I didn't know you as well as I did, I think that I would have found a very close connection to you. And I think that's important. I think it's something that really helps other patients and other people to try to understand the emotional and mental side of this disease as well. We can talk easily about all the physical effects, but you really bring a lot of the mental and the emotional aspects into play, and I think that's something that really is underutilized or undershown in it. So thanks so much for what you do with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I learned a lot of that from Sara. The more vulnerable you can be and the more people can really connect with you, the more they'll go to you when they're struggling or go to you when they have questions. And I think it's all about being a human being. You can spew out a ton of facts, which I did, but you kind of have to add a personal touch in order for people to really flock to you and connect to you and feel like, you understand their life because they've seen a little bit of your life. Like, one of the tweets I did was about how amazing it was to have friends who understand IBD, and I, included a picture of Sara and Jamie and Mal and my friend Beth, and so it just shows the personal side of it, and it's really important,
Yep, I agree.
And Frank,
yeah.
Frank, I was going to say, Frank, Marisa had given me some great advice as well, and we were just in an email or something, and I don't know, I've kind of been in limbo and not really, with it, I guess, and she said, well, you just got to write these things down and get it down sometimes. It doesn't matter if it's, 100%, just get it, whatever it is, out. And, I guarantee you'll feel better. And so I've been working a little bit more on things that I want to get out there on my blog as well, and more about the human side of it, I guess I would say. So thank you, Marisa.
And you do a really great job. I mean, I know sometimes, for me, I'm like, I'm all over the place with my thoughts, like we were talking about. But, if you just write it down, sometimes you publish it, sometimes you don't feel like it's just good to expunge these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Sara, what about you?
So I think in regards to World IBD Day, and I don't think a lot of people realize this because I'm such a jokester. I'm always cracking jokes and being silly.
Wait, you're funny?
No, I'm not funny.
Okay.
I said I crack jokes. I never said
Tries to be funny. Just kidding.
But I put an extreme amount of pressure on myself when it comes to this advocacy, and sometimes I start feeling like I don't measure up, or I'm not going to do you guys justice. It's so silly. It's like stupid thoughts. But I was sitting there like planning out World IBD Day, and I was like, you know, like I feel sometimes like there's expectations on me. Like everybody's going to expect me to make a video, or everybody's going to expect me to write a brilliant blog post, and I can't do those things unless it truly comes from my heart. So I didn't write a new blog, and I didn't do a new video because it would have been forced. It would have been done just because it was World IBD Day, and I knew that it truly wouldn't be coming from a place where I usually start writing, or where I usually start a video from. So I was feeling pretty bad about myself, actually, that I didn't do anything, and I was looking at all the other advocates, and I was like, they're doing things, and I'm not. And I just felt like I was going to let people down. So I don't know. What I did for World IBD Day, I worked tirelessly. Like, it was a long day for me. I think I started at 7 in the morning and didn't stop until I went to bed. But what I wanted to do was I chose all of the blogs that I've ever written that I felt described not only like my story and what I went through as a patient, but things that you guys could really relate to. And I wanted to post things that you could share, so your friends and your family could see, like, hey, patients go through this. This is super serious, and this is the mental aspect of it, and this is how it affects people's families, and this is how it affects financially. And then I shared some blogs that I wrote that were more like, this is what IBD is, and I shared my favorite videos and all that kind of stuff. And I think it really worked out, because I think on my Facebook page alone I had near like 400 shares that day. So from my Facebook page to 400 shares to however many people that touched, I think it had a big impact. And I was tweeting all day, using all social media. So that's kind of what I did. I didn't do anything new, but I wanted to share with everybody kind of my story and all my favorite blogs and everything, so that if you guys aren't comfortable talking yet, or you don't know how to word things, then you could share what I had written and say, like, this is what I go through too, and this is how I feel too, and this is how all of us feel, this is what we're dealing with, and why. So I don't know. Hopefully I did a good job. I do want to say, though, that I'm extremely proud of the three of you. I know we're going back and forth, like, oh, you're so great. No, you're so great. And it seems probably silly to everybody else, but the three of you did a great job. Marisa, everybody knows, is my sister. When she came into my life, I was doing my videos. I was already an advocate, and I felt like I was just sharing my story with everybody else and helping everybody else, but I didn't have somebody helping me. And when we started talking together, I was like, whoa, this girl is like, she's practically me. Like, we related on a level that I just didn't have with anybody else. I always felt like I was weird. Like, I'd talk to other advocates and they would be like, well, I was sick for a little bit, but now I'm running half marathons all the time, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I was like, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Why am I dealing with anxiety? Why am I dealing with depression? Why is my life like this? And Marisa came into my life, and we clicked, and she helped me. So she always says that I helped her, but she never toots her own horn. She's amazing. She helps me. She helps so many other people. She's doing a great job in what she's doing. Ryan, I read your blog, and I feel like I have to step up my game sometimes. Like, man, he is a good wrestler.
Seriously, man. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why you got that degree in English, because, man, you write like seriously well, man. And it's not because you got big words in there that it all rhymes or something like that. But seriously, to me, what makes a good post, regardless of the length, it could be short, it could be long, whatever. I look at a couple things, and one of the main things is that when I'm done reading it, in an hour from now, am I going to remember what I just read? And everything that you post is absolutely true. And number two, man, and it's one of the reasons why I loved Sarah's videos before I even met her, is because you guys bring the funny, man. I mean, you take a serious subject matter that is, it is so absolutely serious, and yet I can get a good laugh and remember everything it is that that you guys wrote, you know, days later. In fact, I find myself chuckling at some of the things a week after I read what you got done, you know, posting. So, you know, it is and that's a gift. That's not something that everybody is born with or that just has. It's an obvious gift, and I thank God that you do this work because it's very helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well,
And we
thank
all need a
you.
little bit of humor, and even though, you know, nobody's trivializing the disease, it's nice to be able to laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan writes like a book. He writes like a really good book, like that just draws you in and you want to keep reading, because there's so many blogs that you come across and you read a little bit and then you're just done because they haven't hooked you. But I get into Ryan's blog and I just want to read the whole damn thing because he writes so well, and I'm drawn into his story, and I feel like I'm living it because that's exactly what I went through too. And I don't know, I was reading your one about night sweats one time, and I was just like so enthralled with the way that you wrote the story.
Yeah.
And Frank, you do a phenomenal job with everything that you do. You are my person that I come to when I don't know, I just have a thought, and I'm always like, Frank is probably going to feel this way too. Like, he's always
Well, you know, it's funny. I do kind of feel like, at least amongst not only the three of us, the four of us here, but also with, you know, with the rest of us that were at DDW, Megan and Andrea and Amber. I feel like we're all kind of cut from the same cloth. You know, we do really feel very similar in a lot of ways, and not just in what, not how do I want to say this? It's like what you just got done saying about you know, that you can't advocate when it's forced, and I feel the exact same way. It is not. When I do the roundtables, when I do write a blog post, when I'm in the different support groups, helping and aiding other patients, is always from a place that I want to be there right then and there. I want to do this, and that but it can't be. You can't do this and do it well and have it something like you know, someone's pushing you to do this. It's got to come from within here, man, and just, you know, want to come out. And it's just something that I don't know. It feels a lot better that way too. Is it just me, or does it feel better when you're just doing it from a place in the mind and the heart that just wants to do it?
Yeah, it's so much better. I mean, there are times where, you know, I can go a couple weeks and I'm not in the mood to write about IBD or talk about it or really think about it. I don't have any, you know, big things going on, and I don't feel like writing. And then there are times where, you know, I have to write 3 posts a day or something like that, and it's
yeah.
You know, it needs to come naturally, and when it's forced, that's really the worst, because then it becomes like a job, and you're trying to like search your own feelings without them coming up naturally, and it's a whole different type of advocacy when it's forced.
You want to see my cool notebook where I write down all my ideas, because Gut Girl's on it.
Yeah, baby.
And
Love Gut Girl.
I'm offended by Gut Girl.
This girl Amber drew it. She's an amazing artist, and we are going to make cool Gut Girl T-shirts one day. But I love that book.
You should. I love Gut Girl. Seriously.
Can I say, well, thank you all for your wonderful comments. And back to the World IBD Day, the one post that I really, really love, besides all of you guys, but it's the one from the Great Bowel Movement called Know This About IBD.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone should read that post if they have not. That's just a phenomenal piece of, I don't know who wrote that at the Great Bowel Movement, but that was
Megan.
Was it Megan?
I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great piece, and
Yeah.
and people did share that. I did see that a lot on Facebook on the 19th. That post going around a little bit, and it's just so true. So.
But let's stop talking about ourselves and start talking about questions or something.
Yeah, let me ask you this real fast, though. Sarah, you and I found ourselves in a funny situation on World IBD Day. I was tweeting facts about IBD, and one of my tweets is that there is no cure for IBD. Our followers took great exception to this and thought that I was being too negative. That he tweeted to both you and I that I was too negative, that it might be bad, and that it's scary for newly diagnosed patients. When we advocate for IBD, is it better to arm patients and caregivers and the general public with raw facts, or should we be massaging those facts to make it more palatable for them?
Yeah, that was an interesting situation that we got into. I found myself in two sort of Twitter fights. They weren't really fights, but kind of heated discussions back and forth, which was weird because I was like, isn't this day supposed to be about like good things? But I understood where the person was coming from who said that. Like I always try to stay open-minded and to really hear the patients that are talking to us, because there's something behind it that made them say what they did. But on the other hand, I don't think your tweet was a negative post at all. And this person, with all due respect, love you, person, this person was saying that your tweet was negative and that it didn't give hope and that it would scare new patients and scare people and all that stuff, when your tweet was just a fact about IBD, which is that the only way to, or was it just there's no cure for IBD? I don't remember the whole tweet.
I wrote it as the best that a IBD patient can hope for right now is remission. That there is no cure for IBD. There is no cure for IBD.
Right. Right. Which to me, that's not negative. That's the truth. I mean, the truth is there is no cure. And you were tweeting facts about IBD because the world does need to know. Yeah. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of World IBD Day. It's not to. I mean, in a way, it is for the patients, but it is so much more to educate the world about inflammatory bowel disease, and the world needs to know that right now these patients have no cure, and that the best that they can hope for is remission. So in my own opinion, because it's always our own personal opinions, I didn't find it negative, and I think that we do need to be realistic. And, you know, I was diagnosed young, Marisa was young, and I still didn't want it sugar-coated for me. I wanted to know the truth. In fact, I would have rather known the truth. Some of the things that I was told, I could have been better prepared for things if I knew what was up ahead. Like if I knew what was ahead and I knew the truth and things weren't sugar-coated. So I see where that may scare somebody, but they need to know that there's no cure for their disease. Because that's true.
You know, I think that it's not exactly the same thing, but I think it's also what you ran into with Gut Girl. That, you know, they didn't want you to come to an IBD event as Gut Girl because it might scare the newly diagnosed patients and that it might somehow be taken offensively. And, you know, not only is that absolutely insanely ridiculous to think those things about Gut Girl, number one, but when did it become? When did we decide that arming people with raw knowledge was not acceptable? That somehow it's no longer acceptable to know the truth about everything, and that I don't know. You know, it kind of goes against everything that I say. When I say knowledge is power, if you don't give people, and it doesn't matter whether it's a patient, a caregiver, or you know, just the general public, if you don't give them the correct information, the right information, the real information, how are they supposed to do anything?
Right.
I mean, I also think it depends on, you know, you have to find a balance. It depends on your audience. I mean, when I was 14 years old, my mom took me to a CCFA concert, and she called numerous times just to make sure that it would be appropriate for me. And there were videos there, and there were things that scared the living, crap out of me and my mom, things that we never even thought about. And, I agree, it's good to be an educated patient, but there's some things you don't need to see because they may never happen to you, and it's just going to scare you for no reason. So whereas I'm a big, big proponent in showing the reality of IBD. I mean, as most of you know, ulcerative colitis has impacted my life a ridiculous amount. So I want everybody to know.
Really?
How devastating ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease are. But I do think there's a balance, and I think you need to know what you're able to handle. And if you're a caregiver of a child with IBD, you need to know what you're getting into. I mean, my mom couldn't believe she took me to that event. Sometimes, a young IBD, a newly IBD patient shouldn't be on the internet, at all hours of the night looking at forums, because you're just going to get a bunch of people who are, most likely having issues. So I think you have to find a balance about what works for you and being educated and not, too overwhelmed, I guess is the right word.
On what Marisa's saying right now, I completely agree, and I think parents obviously should be monitoring their children and what their children are looking at on the internet. And I'm constantly in contact with parents of kids who have IBD who read my blog, and I try to be as kid-friendly as possible, but I am an adult. But on the other hand, because I work at Camp Oasis, and because I've been doing that for 6 years, I see kids of all ages who have IBD come. And they have to be exposed to all types of IBD because their cabin mate may have an ostomy, or their friend may be on TPN at night. And so they're exposed to all those things anyway. But I think it's really also, it may be scary, but I think it also can show them that they're not alone, that they can live with those things and get through it. And it's a fine line that you have to walk, a balancing act, and parents, obviously, you need to be involved with your children and what they're doing. But I don't think it necessarily scares all the kids. The Camp Oasis kids are some of the most special, amazing children that I've ever met in my life. I think they are old souls. You have to grow up so fast when you have something like this. They are just amazing kids, and unfortunately they're faced with this harsh reality sometimes. But I think being exposed to it kind of arms them for possibilities, and I think it's also always important when you're writing something or saying something that you say, this can happen, but it's not going to happen to everybody. This is not going to happen to you, but I mean, it could, but
You also, Sarah, are exposing it to people in a positive light. I mean, gut girl and, the ostomy, it's not, gross, it's designs and stuff like that. So it kind of makes people feel like, well, if down the line this maybe is my future, it's not so bad, or, I'll get through it and things like that. So you do present, it is in the way you present it also.
Yeah, totally.
Ryan, you got any thoughts on it?
Unfortunately, I'm in Twitter jail. They won't let me follow any more people, so I haven't really been on there lately.
Great. So that email I sent them really worked. Awesome.
Yeah. But no, I kind of agree that, I don't know, there's no cure. So how can we sugarcoat that? How can you, how can you avoid that fact of the disease? But and I can also see what Marisa's saying, that it's how you approach the information. I was, 38 years old, and had the nurse come into my room, and she pulled out a Sharpie and she drew a circle on my belly where my stoma was going to be, and I was crying because I didn't even know, I didn't understand these things. So I think if I had met Gut Girl before, I would have had not so much fear about what was going to happen. But
you should have called upon me. I'm only like an hour away. I would have flown in and been like, I'm here.
right. But yeah, it depends on, I guess. Hey, I'm saying I was a grown man and it terrified me, and it was all because of not knowing or not understanding. It was my own ignorance, you know.
Yeah. Same here. I was terrified. I didn't know what I know today back then. It's scary.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's you know, it was a life-saving surgery, and you know, many people, you know, are benefiting from the surgery. I gained 11 pounds when I went home from the hospital the first week. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Sugarcoat, not sugarcoat. It depends on the audience.
Yeah, I think that they worded it back to us is that Frank should have ended the sentence with the word yet.
Yeah.
That he should have said there is no cure yet, because that would have offered the hope. And I guess I can see that point, but you have to know Frank, for one. You can't base everything that he does off of one tweet, because he's a very hopeful person, and he instills hope in so many of us. So
sometimes I kind of feel like I live too much on the hopeful side rather than in the necessarily the grounded reality side. But
Twitter can be frustrating that it's just.
It's 140 characters. I mean, I was trying to get. I was also trying to get a point across too that that we don't have a cure, and you're right, we don't have a cure yet. Do I think there will be one day? Absolutely. But I think the point I was also trying to get across was we don't have a cure yet. So people, let's gear up. Let's do everything we can to make one. Get involved, help out. Let's go. Let's lead the charge. And it just unfortunately you don't always get the full context in text. So
yeah.
At any rate, how about we move on to questions?
Let's do it.
All right, the big one that everybody is plussing up right now is from Alicia. Can we talk about the new IBD med that came out? I was both excited and hesitant. It feels like trading one poison for another. I know for myself, I don't really think I can speak on this. I know that the drug was released. I haven't been able to do enough research on it yet. And the last thing in this world I want to do is give misinformation. So does anybody here know, something of it that they're willing to talk about?
I know a bit about it. I've kind of been talking back and forth with Dr. Higgins a little bit this week about it, as well as like doing some research on my own. So vedolizumab, if that's how you say it, because that's, I don't know. But that's how it sounds to me in my head when I read it. So it works a little bit different. It has a different action mechanism, whereas like our biologics and the treatments that we have today, only 40% of patients respond to that. So the people that don't respond to that, they need a different action, like mechanism of action, basically. This new drug is it's an anti-adhesion therapy is basically what it's called. So it's not a biologic, and it's not something that is supposed to suppress the entire immune system. It's gut specific. So it means that it's targeting your gut alone. And I forget what like somehow it targets the white blood cells, and I think it prevents them from attaching to the gut. I could be wrong on that. I just wrote a blog on it. But it's an anti-adhesion therapy that's gut specific, so it won't suppress your whole immune system, which I find pretty positive. It's supposed to come with a lower risk of infection. Obviously, we don't know long term right now because it just came out, so nobody can speak on the long term There's also talk about PML, the brain infection that some patients get from Tistate. I can never say that drug. Tisabri? That's that one. That's used for MS. So some patients can get a fatal brain infection, which is scary. No wonder people don't want to take that. But so far, during all the clinical trials with this new drug, nobody has ended up with it. It's supposed to be very gut specific, and it's a new it's a new action mechanism. Whereas if biologics have failed you, this may be the route that you need, because as of right now, there are over 160, I believe, it's 160 or 190 different types of IBD. We call them Crohn's disease, or we call it ulcerative colitis, but it's really a spectrum disease. There's so many variations. The body can only express itself in certain ways, so we lump them into ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. But to treat this disease that's so complex and there's so many types, one treatment can't possibly work for everybody when it's that complex. So this is really cool because it works in a different way. And so if biologics have failed you, then this might be the route to go. Seems to be lower risk of infection. Good news on the PML. So far, there has been like an increased sore throat rate, so you may end up with a sore throat. It was 7 out of 1,000, something close to that. That ended up with C. diff. But I wrote a blog on it, so you can double check my facts, because I don't know if I said them all correctly just then. But I posted a blog on it. I have other links if you want to read a little bit more on the different ways that these different kind of medications work. Is really cool. So I think it's really hopeful, in my opinion.
Sounds like it. And that's inflamed-and-untamed.com to see that blog post and your others.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm just going to take these in order. When we were talking about doing trials and medical trials and treatments and stuff like that, Veganostomy wrote, I also highly recommend doing a trial too. They are far more thorough than a standard GI treatment, and you can and you do help to advance the science. Personally, you know, someone asked me once before, like, why do you do all of these? Why do you do all these research trials? And personally, I think we have a moral obligation to help in every way possible. It's not that I don't believe that it's the patient's job to be sick, and it is the GIs and the pharmaceuticals' job to find the fix, and that there's a hard line to stop. Where patients start and begin, and GIs and medical professionals, you know, start and end. We need to all work together. We need to all come together, and we have a moral obligation to try to, help out as much as we possibly can. What's your thought, Marisa, on it?
I agree. I mean, I was never really exposed to the option of having it, and I think it would depend on what I would have to do. I mean, if I was just gonna, donate a blood sample or something with DNA or something like that, I would, without hesitation, definitely do that. If it was a little bit more expensive, if it was trying, a certain drug that I don't know if I could wrap my head around it. But again, I'm not experienced with clinical trials like this, so maybe if I was and I knew a little bit more, I'd be able to give a better answer. But right now, just the thought of kind of doing something that hasn't been done before, especially because I've had such bad luck with treatment and all that, that's just a little scary for me.
Yeah. Ryan, you want to add to that?
I was just going to repeat that I am right now currently in the University of Michigan's trial, whatever, database, I guess we'll call it. Mm-hmm. And they send me emails every day, and they say, you possibly qualify for one or more studies, log in and check it out. And I do, and unfortunately, I don't qualify for many because I don't have the colon, and there are all these things they're looking for. But as soon as I find the one that I fit, I'm going to go do it, because I firmly believe in, as you say, let's, study me. I don't care. If I can help and contribute in that way, in that manner, I'm going to do so.
Yep. Okay, on the next one. Let's see. Karen Powers says, when we were talking about bad information, advocating and the misinformation, the bad information that's out there, I get what you're saying in reference to bad information in terms of people advocating. I'm a nurse, and in parentheses she writes, and no, I don't know it all. But I find myself as both a nurse and an IBD patient seeing bad information out there. I agree, it's frustrating. First of all, Karen, thank you so much for being a nurse. Nurses are the unsung heroes of the medical profession, and I just love nurses. I love the amount of work that they do for us and everything that they provide in the medical world. And it's very frustrating for me. I don't know about you guys, but it is extremely frustrating when I see bad information out there, because I feel like now I've got to work 5 times harder to counteract that. And that hasn't helped us to get further ahead. It's just kept us as status quo. And I don't like status quo. I want to keep moving forward. What about you guys?
I think it's infuriating a lot of ways, especially, the article from Fox News that was, said irritable bowel disease included ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease when the question was specifically about IBS. And it's just, it adds on, and, so many eyes are on Fox News, and so many eyes are on, these news sources, and, sure, they can make a correction, but people already see it. So if it kind of validates what they already thought and felt beforehand, then nobody's going to really think twice about it. And I think that the media kind of destroys what we all try and do, and it should be a positive thing. I mean, the media should work to our benefit to help spread the word.
Agreed. Ryan, Sarah?
I have nothing to add to that question.
You stink.
You stink.
I just make it real brief, but I've spoken with Marisa about this, where I'm attempting to do a swim to raise awareness for IBD, and I kind of vacillate between should I do it or should I not, because I don't want the end result to be, well, that guy has Crohn's and he just did this, where, I don't know. I've been struggling with it recently because I'm an atypical case, I guess, that I don't experience a lot of what others with IBD experience, and I just feel like I'd be spreading the wrong message. Like, I don't know. Maybe
Brian,
Marisa
I
could help me.
completely understand what you were saying when we were talking about it, but I think that you're a really balanced advocate. You're not all, roses, and you're not negative. So I think that, and you are upfront that, your Crohn's is, atypical, not that there is a typical type of Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, but yeah. I think you are very balanced, and I think that you show the struggles also. So I don't think that it will come out as, well, he has Crohn's and he can swim this, so it's obviously not that bad. If people are really taking the time to, get to know you and read your work, because, like I said, you do talk about, things that aren't great as well, and that's important. We need the balance between the struggles and the hope.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Sarah?
Are we talking about Ryan swimming?
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's right. You had nothing to add.
Do I agree with Ryan swimming? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I do. No, I totally. To talk about that for a second, I would have that same question in my mind, because I wouldn't want to look like I was putting out the image that, hey, I have this horrible, debilitating disease, but I can swim across a whole entire Great Lake. what kind of messages am I sending? That would probably be in my head too, and I can totally understand where you're coming from there in that battle. But I think that nobody looks at you like that, and nobody will, because of the work that you do. There are other advocates out there that make me feel that way, that they are all like, I do all these extreme physical fitness things that not even healthy people can do. And they only put out the image of that, and it looks like IBD is no big deal. If they can do all these extreme things, then how is it a big deal? Why would I donate to that cause? Because these people are clearly fine.
Right.
You need to show the other side, which is so important.
Yeah. And that was my concern, is, you know, the media, because we can't really control the media. They glom onto whatever they're going to glom onto, and then that's the only snippet that gets out there. It was, not to talk about myself, but it was a learning curve last year in dealing with the media. I just don't want to spread, I don't want that to be the only message, that, because when I read and I see other patients on Facebook pages, and, you know, they talk about how their own family members don't believe them, and you know, they're faking it. You know, I didn't want it to be, well, again, you know, that guy just did it. He has Crohn's and he can do it. You know, why can't you, you know, make a chicken pot pie for me? You know, that's
right. Yeah.
That was a little reference to the Breakfast Club. But anyway, yeah, the media can get things wrong. And Frank, you just did an article with, you know, for IBD Journeys, and as Dr. Rubin stated as well, you know, you got to go back to those journalists and say, I want to see this article before you're going to press with it, because, and I know you guys did that and made sure that that article was the way you wanted it to be, because if you don't do that, and I learned that early on with a few that I did, you know, and you get the wrong information out there, and then I felt embarrassed because I was like, I don't want anyone in the IBD community to even read this, because, you know, I sound like an idiot. But
I think the difference between, and I can't speak for all journalists that are out there that work for newspapers and for large media, you know, companies, but the difference between Chuck O'Donnell did the piece on IBD Journeys, and I was fortunate enough to be able to contribute to, you know, that. And the difference is that Chuck wanted to write a piece that clearly showed what IBD was really about. And I have to believe that most of the journalists that write other pieces don't care about what it is they're writing about. They don't care that they're writing about IBD. So they don't care that they got the information wrong. They didn't care to fact check anything. They didn't care to take it to a medical professional and say, hey, is the stuff that I'm writing about correct? Because it was just an assignment that they could have cared less about. And that's the difference between getting a good journalist and somebody who just, you know, is doing it because their editor made them, or, you know, something to that effect. And we need more people who will write pieces like the way Chuck did. Chuck O'Donnell was an excellent guy. When I talked to him, he just really cared about getting the story correct. And I wish there was more journalists like that out there.
And just real quick, Rebecca Kaplan had a great piece as well for the Huffington Post that she wrote that came out earlier this week, and I thought that was great as well. So,
yeah. Can you, Sarah? Can you see what's in the Q&A?
Yes, I can.
You see Christie's up?
I can see that.
Would you mind reading it?
Hi, Christy. By the way, Christy sent me this really cool, comfortable blanket, and I love it, and I've been using it every single day. So, Christy, this picture is for you.
Wait a minute, you said that was us.
It's a colon, and there's Frank and Marisa in the heart, and that's me, and that's Ryan, and we're all in this happy colon. That's for you. So her question is, exposing the truth to children. Well, it's not really a question. It's more like a statement. Stop laughing. This is a serious matter, and I'm giving away serious prizes right now, so it's all serious. This is a statement. What?
Do you want me to read it?
No.
Would somebody please read it?
I'm reading it. Exposing the truth to children is a careful demystification of facts presented in an age-appropriate way. She has a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. She says she uses lots of careful explanations happening about surgery, flares, ostomy, and more. And if you don't know Christy Stone, Christy is a mother, and she is an ostomate, and she blogs. She is Crony Baloney. We'll have to put her link somewhere where everybody can see it. But she's a really good blogger to follow too, and she's a great person.
And one of these fine roundtables, she will be joining us on here.
Absolutely.
I thoroughly enjoy what she does also, and I think she's awesome, and I'd love to get her on 1 month to talk to us.
Yeah, she'd be a great person to have. But so yeah, her statement is, I think it's a great one about being a parent. If you're a parent with IBD, or a parent of a child who has IBD, it's all in the way that you present it in an age-appropriate way. And you start when they're young, and they're probably going to ask questions. Most kids are curious, and that's where they're coming from, is just out of curiosity. And you explain it to them in a way that's appropriate for that age, and as they grow, they're going to learn more, and it becomes more serious, and you can expand on their knowledge and expand on that topic as it becomes appropriate for them.
If anybody was curious why I asked someone else to read that question, I have dyslexia, and when I...
The demystification?
Yeah, every single time I kept looking at that question, it wasn't even just that word, but all of it, I swear to God, it was all upside down, backwards, and just... I just couldn't make heads or tails of it, so I figured, why embarrass myself? I'll let you guys read it.
And so she got a picture out of it, so she's lucky that I read that question, because who wouldn't want this?
Yes. So I don't know how many people in the audience know about and I hope everybody does, because it was such a great and successful campaign, in my opinion, the Get Your Belly Out hashtag and movement. Victoria Marie, who is a live viewer right now, who is just an awesome advocate in and of herself, is part of that Get Your Belly Out campaign. And more like a statement, she said that, we had a bad newspaper article written for the belly campaign. Not cool. The journalist wasn't even embarrassed when the article went, and we lodged a complaint. And it's a shame that there's journalists like that out there, man. Some of these journalists, man, could really do a lot of good with just one article that they could write, and yet instead of doing a whole lot of good with one little article, they do a whole lot of bad with one article. And I could go on forever about that.
I think that's a perfect example, Frank, of what you're saying about a journalist who's just assigned something and doesn't really care about actually getting the word out. They're just doing their job.
Yeah.
So
totally. The media sucks at covering IBD. I think out of all diseases that they cover, it's one of the hardest to get right, because
I'm amazed when I find something that's accurate and doesn't trivialize what we go through.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you cover arthritis, you're probably going to get it mostly right. If you cover lupus, they're probably looking into it, but for some reason with these bowel diseases, it so gets associated with food and your diet and confused with IBS. And I think that bowel diseases and disorders, they just get so fucked up. I said fuck. Everybody drink. I think it's my swear word, first swear word of the night.
What was amazing to me is that Ryan swore before you did. It just is odd to me.
Girl is kind of in her question.
I turned into an angel. But yeah, point of that was I said fuck, and the media is bad.
That's okay. Pearl's up next. By the way, Pearl Rodder is just an awesome, awesome individual. Thank you so much for all your
She
support and
is.
love.
She's so supportive, and
Yeah.
she always in there in my chats, and we love her.
Yeah. She writes, biologics have been around for a while and are still prohibitively expensive. As we all know, patients without insurance coverage are beep. They're screwed. Did any of the companies address the issue of cost or talk about potentially lowering them? No, Pearl's referring to DDW14 and the meeting that we had with Janssen and the GI docs. There was, I don't really remember much talk at all about how much things cost and or anything like that. We didn't really touch on the money side of things.
I
Go ahead,
was just gonna interject real quick. When I was on the floor and I did go by the Janssen booth, there was a gentleman there. We had not met him the night before. I can't remember his name right now, but he said, you know, from his perspective and what he would do and what he wants to do is go find every single infusion center that's giving Remicade and explain to them about their RemiStart program. And before going or agreeing to go, I didn't let it be known that I am on Remicade. I've had 3 infusions so far. I didn't really say anything until that night at the dinner. I started talking with them, and the next day he said, you know, there are so many infusion centers that don't care. They won't give the information. So there's so many patients that are on Remicade that don't know that they could get a lot of that coverage, a lot of the cost of the medication can be covered. And I said to him, well, I didn't even have to sign up for RemiStart. My doctor's nurse did it for me. And he said, well, you have an excellent GI doctor in office because you didn't have to do anything. But there are programs out there. You can look into each pharmaceutical company. I don't know them all, but they do have assistance for some. But to the second part of your question about, you know, any talk about potentially lowering costs, no, that was never mentioned or discussed.
What really sucks is that that money has to play a part in our health. We need money in order for the companies to do the research and development and figure out ways to make us better, but at the same time they need to recoup that cost and then also at the same time put money back into research and development for the next thing that we need. And yet insurance companies are doing everything they can to refuse to pay for things at the same time. It's
so much medical debt, and those patients generally are the ones where it's really difficult for them to work to begin with. So they're, spending what very little income they have on medical bills, and they're still not able to make it.
There's a double-edged sword here, man, that really sucks. Sarah, did you want to add anything?
No.
Okay. Let's power through some of these. Timmy writes, Tim T writes, no sugar coating, put it all out there. I agree. What's that?
I said that's right. Tim, yep. This lip gloss is for you.
No, I mean, to get back real fast, just to say real quick, you know, if I thought that there was a kid in the audience that was a young teenager or an adolescent of some sort, I would probably choose my words a little more carefully. But I also, in my advocacy, can, especially on the internet, I can't worry about that. It's not that I can't worry about that. That's not the right word either. It's just hard because I'm speaking to the masses, and I need to get information out there. And hopefully, like Sarah said, parents are doing their job of trying to filter the information that their children are seeing. I don't know.
Tim, I have this. I'm going to give Tim this losing lottery ticket. That's my present to him.
Ooh, Tim, it's your lucky day. You got lip gloss and a lottery ticket.
It was a losing lottery ticket.
And you lost.
I'm starting to think he lost just by watching us.
Yeah, right. You're kidding.
Barry S. Really enjoyed IBD Day watching Twitter, etc. Made me feel so involved and less alone. Thanks, everyone. It struck me that that the year earlier I had no idea of an IBD community. Thanks to Sara, as discovering her YouTube vids made such a big difference to me. Made a huge difference to me when I found their videos too. So.
Me too.
Who
Yep.
said that? Who said
That was Barry S. That I'm not going to again attempt this last name.
You get a picture of a colon with a salad blocking the colon. This is a blockage for you, Barry.
He came here to get support and advice and watch this and what does he get in return? You blocking him up.
This is why I can't even do drugs or drink, you guys, because this is me normal. It's a whacking up in this head. All serious note, though, thank you so much for that comment, because it really does. That means a lot to me to hear that my videos do anything for anybody. It's really cool. So thank you, and now you get this blocked colon.
Veganostomy again. Costs will come down when the patients on biologics expire. Patents. Thank you. I was going to say, man, that didn't sound very, very optimistic or good at all. Costs will come down when the patents on biologics expire. Humira patents expire in a few years, and costs will come down significantly. Still won't be cheap, but it will force people to not have to remortgage their homes. I agree. As with most things, when there's an exclusive patent on it and we're not able to get generics and stuff like that, it makes it much more costly. So hopefully we will start to see some of these things come down in price. You guys have anything to add?
I have to add, the next person that gets a prize from me is going to be really lucky.
All right, Kelsey, one of my favorite Canadians, along with Veganostomy. You guys are a joy to watch. Love your humor and awesome info. Thank you, Kelsey.
Oh, Kelsey, guess what you get?
Oh man, Kelsey, you thought you wrote that and it was like a nice thing, but look what it's going to get you.
Coming up next, you have a picture of me with moon face.
Oh man, it gets sillier the longer we go. Another one from Pearl Rotter. Thank you for providing facts. Many of us are trying to raise money for research. I agree the greater public needs to know this if we expect to change anything. It's not negative at all. It's condensing to it's condescending to sugarcoat the truth. I agree.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think the only way we're really gonna have successful fundraising, I guess, is if the public really understands the reality of it, and sugarcoating it just isn't the answer.
What I want to know is why no one has asked the question yet. When you guys leave the camera, why you back outwards instead of just getting up and walking away? In fact, that's my question to all of you.
I do that all the time, mostly because I'm not wearing pants. Is the reason. So, yeah. And nobody wants to get that as a present, so I'm doing you all a favor.
So I don't know if any of us can truly answer the next question, but I'm going to throw it out there. Michael Morris asks, what do donations to CCFA go for? What pays for universities that do research? None of us here work for the CCFA, and I don't, I'm sure if you go to their website, you can find out. A lot of some of their dollars go towards Camp Oasis. Some of it goes towards research. I do know, I think the percentage is that 80% of every dollar donated goes towards actual IBD things rather than going towards administrative costs and stuff like that, which is pretty high. 80% of the money going directly back into IBD is pretty good.
You can, right? They can find that online. I think at one point I read it was 86%, but I don't want to say that's correct either. But I do know in 2010 they brought in, I think, $50 million in donations, and if it was 86% of that went right back out into research, you know, funding research, like Frank said, and also the camp. But yeah, I'm not saying it from a position of knowledge. Definitely, you can go look and find those things. It's all public record since they are a nonprofit. All information is public, and you can find it online.
Yeah. Guys, I think that we're going to have to pretty much call it from here. I want to give a shout out to Shannon. Thank you so much for the things that you've written inside of the chat. I really appreciate it. You're always a big supporter, and we really appreciate that. Seriously, thank you. Hi to Joshua E. Robinson, too. I'm glad that you were able to come in and watch, even if it was a little late. Guys, just a reminder that you can always watch this after the fact. You can subscribe to it on iTunes. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can watch it on YouTube or on your favorite podcatcher for any of your mobile devices. So please subscribe. And I think that's going to be it. You guys want to say some closing remarks? Marisa, I'll let you start.
It was really, really great being here and talking to all of you. You can find me on Twitter, JournalingIBD, or my blog, journalingibd.org. I also share a Facebook page with Ryan and Christina Matthews, the Crohn's and Ulcerative Colitis Diaries, and we're there on Facebook every day, so you can find us there. And have a good night, everybody.
Great. Ryan?
Again, thanks for the invite, having me here. Really enjoyed it, and I'm going to try to write a few more things about Digestive Diseases Week and the experience there, so I hope that will come out on my blog, and probably as well would share it with Marisa through the Facebook page. So thanks for having me.
Looking forward to that, and always glad to have you here. Love what you do. Sarah?
Hi, everybody, or goodbye, everybody, I should say. Again, because I don't have my name underneath me this week because Google Plus hates me. My name is Sara, S-A-R-A. There is no H on the end of my name, and you can find me at inflamed-and, like A-N-D, -untamed.com. And if you have never come across me before and this is your first time watching me or hearing me talk, I'm in rare form tonight. Actually, no, I'm pretty much always like this all the time, but I invite you guys to come check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of great videos there about IBD and my experiences with it and all sorts of stuff. So subscribe, because there's 5 million of you out there and I only have, like, I don't know, 3,000 subscribers. So get on that and come find my blog and come find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm really big on YouTube and my blog and Instagram. Google Plus is the devil, as I always say. But I just wanted, tonight, I just want to thank you guys for watching the Roundtable, for being supporters of what we do individually and together here on the Roundtable. And I want to thank you personally from me, just me alone. You guys have gotten me through a lot of difficult times this year. It's been a hard year for me. And as much as I'm here to support you guys, and that's kind of why I started this, I realized that I need you guys too. And I'm really thankful to all of you. You guys say thank you to me a lot, but I'm really, really thankful to you, especially this year, and reaching out to me and helping me by donating to me if you did that, or just leaving me a kind thought. It means a lot. I read all of them all the time. I might not respond really fast because it's kind of in my nature to not do that really fast. And I drew you a J pouch and a cat. Good night, everyone.
Guys, I just want to reiterate Sarah's sentiments. We greatly appreciate you taking your time out to watch us. You guys, obviously, time is precious, and you could be doing a million other things. I mean, hell, you could just be even watching regular TV for that matter. But you take your time to watch us, and that really means everything to me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching. You know, you can obviously, I'd ask that if you do me a favor, please check out my Facebook page, The Crohn's Colitis Effect. I'm also on Google Plus as The Crohn's Colitis Effect. Find me on Twitter at Crohn's Effect. And let's see, YouTube. YouTube.com/FGARUFI Jr. Or should I say FGARUFI Jr. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again next month. Goodbye.
Bye.